a series of favorite songs of His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu that he sings and trains us. We'll start with Ohe Vaishnava Thakura by Ananda Mataji.
Vaishnava Thakura Dayara Sagara Edase Koruna Kori Dayara Sagara Edase Koruna Kori Diya Pada Chaya Sodhe Amaya Tomar Charan Dhori Chaya Bega Domi Chaya Dosho Shodhi Chaya Guna Deho Dase Boshechi Sangera Ashe Satsanga Dehohe Amare Boshechi Sangera Ashe Ekaki Amara Nahi Paya Bola Harinama Sankirtane Ekaki Amara Nahi Paya Harinama Sankirtane Tumi Kripa Kori Shraddha Bindu Diya Deho Krishna Nama Dhane Tumi Kripa Kori Shraddha Bindu Diya Deho Krishna Nama Dhane Krishna se Tumara Krishna dite paro tomara sakati ache Krishna dite paro Ami to kangala Krishna Krishna boli dhai tab pache 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 Ohe Vaishnava Thakura Dayara Sagara Edase Koruna Kori Dayara Sagara Edase Koruna Kori Diya Pada Chaya Sodhoe Tomara Charan Dhori Pada Chaya Sodhoe Amaya Tomara Charan Dhori Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev
see, you can play. No, you see. You know where is it? You don't see that. I can see. No. Yeah, that's good. Ujjvala-varnam Gauravara-deham Vilasita-niravadhi-bhava-videham Tribhuvana-pavana-kripayalesham Tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam Gadgada-antara bhava-vikaram Durjana-tarjana-nada-vishalam Bhava-bhaya-bhanjana-karana-karunam Tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam Arunambaradhara-charu-kapolam Indu-vinindita-nakha-chaya-ruchiram Jalpita-nija-guna-nama-vinodam Tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam Vigalita-nayana-kamala-jaladhara Bhushana-navarasa-bhava-vikaram Gatyati-mantara-nitya-vilasam Tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam Sanchala-charu-charana-gati-ruchiram Manjira-ranjita-padayuga-madhuram Chandra-vinindita-shitala-vadanam Tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam Vitakati-dhoraka-mandalu-dandam Divyaka-levara-mundita-mundam Durjana-kalmasya-khandana-dandam Tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam Bhushana-bhuraja-alaka-balitam Kampita-bimbadhara-vara-ruchiram Malaya-javira-chitta-ujvala-tilakam Tam pranamami cha Shri Sachitanayam
Taruna Kamaladaya Nayanam Ajanulambita Sri Bhuja Yugalam Kalivara Keshura Narkapavesham Tam Pranamami Cha Sri Sachitanayam Ujvala Varana Gauravara Deha Vilasita Niravadhi Bhava Videham Tribhuvana Pavana Vidvayalesham Tam Pranamami Cha Sri Sachitanayam Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaurahari. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaurahari. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaurahari. Gaurahari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaurahari Bol.
বিভাবরী শেষ আলোক প্রবেশ নিদ্রা ছাড়ি ওঠ জীব বিভাবরী শেষ আলোক নিদ্রা ছাড়ি ওঠ জীব বলো হরি হরি মুকুন্দ মুরারি রাম কৃষ্ণ হয় গ্রীব সিংহ বামন শ্রী মধুসূদন গজেন্দ্র নন্দন শ্যাম पूतन घाटन कैतव सातन जय दासरथी राम जय दासरथी राम यशोदा दुलाल गोविंद गोपाल वृंदावन पुरंदर गोपी प्रिया जन राधिका रमन भुवन सुंदर वर गोपीवन वस्त्रहारी माखन ब्रजेराराधला गोपवृन्दाफला चित्तहारी वंशीधारी योगींद्र वंदन श्रीनंदनंदन व्रज जन भयहारी योगींद्र वंदन श्रीनंदनंदन नवीन नीरादा रूप मनोहर मोहन वंशी विहारी रूप मनोहर मोहन वंशी विहारी यशोदानंदन कंसन सूदन कुंजरास विलासी कदम्ब कानन रस परायण वृंदावी पीन निवासी कदम्ब कानन रस परायण वृंदावी पीन निवासी आनंद वर्धन प्रेम निकेतन फूल सराज काम आनंद वर्धन फूल सराज गोपंगनागन चित्त विनोदन समस्त गुणगान यमुना जीवन केली परायण मानस चंद्र चकोर यमुना जीवन केली परायण मानस चंद्र चकोर नाम शुद्ध रस गाव कृष्ण जस राखो वचन मन मोर नाम गाओ कृष्ण राखो वचन मन विभावरी शेष आलोक प्रवेश गीताचारी ओठ जीव विभावरी जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय राधे श्याम कृष्ण बलराम जय राधे श्याम जय ललिता विशाखा जय राधे श्याम जय ललिता विशाखा जय राधे श्याम जय ललिता विशाखा जय राधे जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन धाम जय वृंदावन नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद
Hare Krishna. Next we'll recite the second chapter of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I can stand. Vyasa uvacha iti samprashna samhrishto. We can all recite together. Iti samprashna samhrishto vipranam raumaharshanihi pratipuja vachaschesam pravaktum upachakrame sutta uvacha yam pravarjantamanupettamapetya krityam Dvaipayano viraha katara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravo binedus tam sarvabhuta hridayam munimanatnosmi yasvanubhavam akila shrutisāramekam adhyatmadīpam atitīrshatam tamondam saṅsārinam karunayaha purana guhyam Tyam vasa sonum upagami gurum muninam Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet Munayas sadhu prishtoham bhavadbhairloka mangalam Yatkrita Krishna samprashno enatma suprasidati Savai pungsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaitukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati Vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojitaha janayat yashu vairagyam jnanam chayad ahaitukam dharma svanushtita pungsam Vishvakshena katasuyaha notpadayed yatiratim shrama eva hi kevalam dharmasya hi apavargasya narto artayo pakalpate nartasya dharmaikantasya kamo labhaya hi smritaha kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata Jivasya tattva jigyasa narto yasceha karma bihi vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate tachradadana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashyantyatmani chatmanam Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya Atapumbe Dvaja Shreshta Varnashrama Vibhagashaha Svanushthitasya Dharmasya Sangsiddhir Haritoshanam Tasmad Ekena Manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deya Pujascha Nityada Shinvatam yad anudyasina yukta karma granti nibandhanam chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat kataratim shushushoshaddadhanasya vasudeva kataruchihi syanmahat sevaya vipra punyatirtha nishevanat Shinvatam svakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidunoti suhrit satam nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki tadarajastamo bhava Kamalobhadayaschaye cheta etairana viddam stitam satve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate विद्यते हृदयग्रन्थे छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे अतो वै कवयो नित्यं भक्तिं परमया मुदा वासुदेवे भगवति कुर्वन्त्यात्मप्रसादनीं सत्त्वं रजस्तम इति प्रकृतिर्गुणैस्तैर्युक्ता परपुरुष एक इहास्य दत्ते सित्यादये हरिविरिञ्चि हरेति संज्ञा श्रेयांसि तत्र खलु सत्त्वतनोर्नृणां स्युः पार्थिवादारुणो धूमस्तस्मात् अग्निस्त्रयीमयः तमसस्तु रजस्तस्मात् सत्त्वं यद्ब्रह्मदर्शनम् भेजिरे मुनयोताग्रे भगवन्तम् अधोक्षजं सत्त्वं विशुद्धं क्षेमाय कल्पन्ते येनुतानिह मुमुक्षवो घोररूपान् हित्वा भूतपतीन् अत नारायणकलाशान्ता भजन्ति हि अनसूयवः रजस्तमप्रकृत्यः समशीला भजन्ति वै पितृभूतप्रजेशादीन् सर्वप्रजेप्सवः वासुदेव परावेदा वासुदेव परामकाः वासुदेव परायोगा वासुदेव पराक्रियाः वासुदेव परं ज्ञानं वासुदेव परं तपः वासुदेव परो धर्मो वासुदेव परागतिः स एवेदं ससर्जाग्रे भगवान् आत्ममायया सद् असद्रूपाय चासौ गुणमयो गुणो विभुः तया विलसितेषु गुणेषु गुणवानिव अन्तःप्रविष्ट आभाति विज्ञानेन विजृम्भितः यथा हि अवहितो वह्निर्दारुष्वेकस्वयोनिषु नानेव भाति विश्वात्मा भूतेषु च तथा पुमान् असौ गुणमयैर्भावैर्भूतसूक्ष्मेन्द्रियात्मिभिः स्वनिर्मितेषु निर्विष्टो भुङ्क्ते भूतेषु तद्गुणान् भावयत्येष सत्त्वेन लोकान् वै लोकभावनः लीलावतारानुरतो देवतिर्यन्नरादिषु इति श्रीमद्भगवते महापुराणे परमहंस्यां संहितायां प्रथमस्कन्धे नैमिषोपाख्याने द्वितीयो अध्यायः हरिः ओम तत्सत्. We'll recite the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as this is Purushottam month. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 15, the yoga of the Supreme Person, Purushottam Yoga. Sanskrit. Ata Panchadasho Adhyayah Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamulam Adashakam Ashvattam Prahur Avyayam Chandangshiyasya Parnani Yastam Veda Saveda Ved Adaschordvam Prasirtastasya Shaka Guna Pravriddha Vishaya Pravalaha Adascha Mulani Anusantatani Karmano Bandini Manushya Loke Narupamasyeha tato palabhyate Nanto nachadir nacha sampratishta Ashvattam menam suviruda moolam Asanga shastrena dridena chitva Tatapadam tat parimargitavyam Yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyaha Tammeva chadyam purusham prapadde Yata pravritte prasrita purane Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha अध्यात्मनित्या विनिवृत्तकामाः द्वन्द्वैर्विमुक्ता सुखदुःखसंज्ञैर्गच्छन्त्यमूढा पदमव्ययं तत् न तद्भासयते सूर्यो न शशाङ्को न पावकः यद्गत्वा न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतसनातनः मनःषष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति शरीरं यद् अवाप्नोति यच्चापुत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धान् इवाशयात् श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणम् एव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयान् उपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं स्थितं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणान्वितं विमूढानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मनि अवस्थितं यतन्तोऽपि अकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त्यचेतसः यद् आदित्यगतं तेजो जगद्भासयते किलं यच्चन्द्रमसि यच्चाग्नौ तत्तेजो विद्धि मामकं गाम् आविश्य च भूतानि धारयाम्यहम् ओजसा पुष्णामि चौषधी सर्वा सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः अहं वैश्वानरो भूत्वा प्राणिनां देहम् आश्रितः प्राणापानसमायुक्तः पचामि अन्नं चतुर्विधं सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मतस्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहं द्वाविमौ पुरुषौ लोके क्षरश्चाक्षर एव च क्षरः सर्वाणि भूतानि कूटस्थो अक्षर उच्यते उत्तमपुरुषस्त्वन्यः परमात्मेति उदाहृतः यो लोकत्रयम् आविश्य बिभर्ति अव्यय ईश्वरः यस्माक्षरम् अतीतोऽहम् अक्षरादपि चोत्तमः अतोऽस्मि लोके वेदे च प्रतितः पुरुषोत्तमा यो मामेवम् असम्मूढो जानाति पुरुषोत्तमं स सर्वविद् भजति मां सर्वभावेन भारत इति गुह्यतमं शास्त्रम् इदम् उक्तं मया नघ एतद्बुद्ध्वा बुद्धिमान् स्यात् कृतकृत्यश्च भारत ॐ तत्सत् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे पुरुषोत्तमयोगो नाम पञ्चदशोऽध्यायः हरिः ओम् Jai. Next we'll have a class on, actually today, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Yashodanandana. Jaya Brajana Ranjana. Jaya Yashodanandana. Jaya Brajana Ranjana. Jaya Brajana Ranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Kunja Bihari. 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Shriman Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Shriman Mahaprabhu, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Srila Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Srila Gurudeva, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa, Nitya Leela Pravishta Parivrajakaacharya, Ashtotra Shatashi Shrimad, His Divine Grace, Abhicharnaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Thakur Haridas Ki Jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिगोवर्धन धाम की जय। व्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। गंगा मैया की जय। यमुना मैया की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। वर्ल्ड वाइड इस्कॉन की जय। इस्कॉन ऑफ सिलिकॉन वैली की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा रथ यात्रा महोत्सव की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि 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 बोल। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So as you know, most of the devotees have gone to Los Angeles for the beautiful, I think, 47th Rathyatra annual festival. So the Rathyatra festival itself is a festival done in the mood of separation of the gopis bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. And then we have one more level of separation that we are not even able to go there because of choice or some commitments we have here. In my case, my relatives are here at home, so I'm not able to go. But last year I went, it was such a nice, especially for ISV devotees, we went in a bus and the trip itself was a festival. And then we went there and participated in the ceremony. Vaisheshika Prabhu was giving such wonderful classes and sang such heart-touching kirtans. It's quite an experience, so we'll be missing all that. However, by the medium of sound vibration, we can get connected with that mood. So for that reason, I thought we can read from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which there's beautiful description of the Rathyatra festival and of Lord Chaitanya's dancing in front of the Rathyatra cart. And it has many nice verses exhibiting the mood of the devotees and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relished those mood of the devotees in separation from Lord Krishna in the course of performing the Rathyatra ceremony. So this is from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 13. So there is a nice summary of this chapter, brief summary. Ramananda Sakha Prabhu, can you read the summary?
The ecstatic dancing of the Lord at Rathyatra. A summary of this chapter is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya as follows. After bathing early in the morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the deities Jagannatha, Baladeva and Subhadra get aboard their three cars. This function is called Pandu Vijaya. At that time, King Prataparudra took a broom with a golden handle and began to cleanse the road. Lord Jagannatha took permission from the goddess of fortune and then started in the car for the Gundicha temple. The road to the temple led along a broad sandy beach, and on the both sides of Both sides of the road were residential quarters, houses, and gardens. Along that road, the servants called Gaudas began to pull the cars. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu divided his Sankirtan party into 7 divisions. With 2 mridangas in each division, there were altogether 14 mridangas. While performing Kirtana, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited various symptoms of transcendental ecstasy. And Jagannatha and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exchanged their feelings very blissfully. When the cars reached the place known as Balagandi, the devotees offered the deities simple food. At this time, in a nearby garden, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees took a brief rest from the dancing.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. So that will be the summary and all the nectar is in the details. So with that, we'll recite some of the verses. I'll start and then we can take turns in reading it. Hearing passages like this require a lot of attention and focus to grasp the meaning without getting spaced out. So please pay as much attention as you can. It's an austerity to keep hearing, but it's something that we can relish if you are into it. Text 1. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who danced in front of the car of Sri Jagannath, be all glorified. By seeing his dancing, not only was the whole universe held in wonder, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished. The next verse is a famous verse that we recite in before each reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'll recite that, you can repeat. Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Yeah, it's slightly different, but when we will recite the standard one. Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Shri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda. All glories to Advaita Chandra and all glories to the devotees of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the listeners of Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Please hear the description of the dancing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Rathyatra festival. His dancing is very enchanting. Please hear of it with great attention. The next day, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates got up in the dark and attentively took their early morning baths. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his personal associates then went to see the ceremony of Pandu Vijay. During this ceremony, Lord Jagannath leaves his throne and gets up onto the car. King Prataparudra in person, as well as his entourage, allowed the Pandu Vijay ceremony to be seen by all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his prominent devotees, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu and others, were very happy to observe how Lord Jagannath began the Rathyatra. The very strongly built Daitas, carriers of the Jagannath deity, were as powerful as drunken elephants. They manually carried Lord Jagannath from the throne to the car. While carrying the deity of Lord Jagannath, some of the Daitas took hold of the shoulders of the Lord, and some caught his lotus feet. The Lord Jagannath deity was bound by the waist by a strong, thick rope made of silk from two sides, the Daitas caught hold of this rope and raised the deity. Strong, puffed up cotton pads, called tulis, were spread out from the throne to the car, and the heavy deity of Lord Jagannath was carried from one pillow-like pad to the next by Daitas. While the Daitas carried the heavy Jagannath deity from one pad to the next, some of the pads broke, and the cotton contents floated into the air. When they broke, they made a heavy cracking sound. Lord Jagannath is the maintainer of the whole universe. Who can carry him from one place to another? The Lord moves by his personal will just to perform his pastimes. While the Lord was transported from the throne to the car, tumultuous sounds were made on various musical instruments. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was chanting, Manima, Manima, but he could not be heard. The word Manima is used to address a respectable person in Orissa. Lord Jagannath was being respectfully addressed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way. While the Lord was being carried from the throne to the car, King Prataparudra personally engaged in the Lord's service by cleansing the road with a broom that had a golden handle. The king sprinkled the road with sandalwood scented water. Although he was the owner of the royal throne, he engaged in menial service for the sake of Lord Jagannath. Although the king was a most exalted, respectable person, still he accepted menial service for the Lord. He therefore became a suitable candidate for receiving the Lord's mercy. Upon seeing the king engaged in such menial service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. Simply by rendering this service, the king received the mercy of the Lord. Everyone was astonished to see the decorations on the Ratha car. The car appeared to be newly made of gold, and it was as high as Mount Sumeru. And let's read the purport here for this one. Prabhupada is so blissfully narrating this incident here. In the year 1973, there was a gorgeous Rathyatra festival in London, England, and the car was brought to Trafalgar Square. The London daily newspaper, The Guardian, published a front page photo caption, ISKCON Rathyatra is rival to the Nelson column in Trafalgar Square. The Nelson column is a very impressive statue of Lord Nelson and can be seen from a good distance. Just as the residents of Puri compared the Rathyatra car to Mount Sumeru, the residents of London considered the car rival to the Nelson monument. You can see how proud Srila Prabhupada is of the accomplishments of his disciples, right? The decorations included bright mirrors and hundreds of chamaras, white whisks made of yak tails. On top of the car were a neat and clean canopy and a very beautiful flag. The car was also decorated with silken cloth and various pictures. Many brass bells, gongs, and ankle bells rang. For the pastimes of the Rathyatra ceremony, Lord Jagannath got aboard one car, and his sister Subhadra and elder brother Balaram got aboard two other cars. For 15 days, the Lord had remained in a secluded place with the Supreme Goddess of Fortune and had performed his pastimes with her. These are the 15 days between the Snana Yatra and Ratha Yatra, so the Lord is not present in his regular altar. Having taken permission from the Goddess of Fortune, the Lord comes out to ride on the Ratha car and perform his pastimes for the pleasure of the devotees. The fine white sand spread all over the path resembled the bank of the Yamuna, and the small gardens on both sides looked just like those in Vrindavan. As Lord Jagannath rode in his car and saw the beauty on both sides, his mind was filled with pleasure. The pullers of the car were known as Gaudas, and they pulled with great pleasure. However, the car sometimes went very fast and sometimes very slow. Sometimes the car would stand still and not move, even though it was pulled very vigorously. The chariot, therefore, moved by the will of the Lord, not by the strength of any ordinary person. As the car stood still, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gathered all his devotees and with his own hand decorated them with flower garlands and sandalwood pulp. Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Bharati were both personally given garlands and sandalwood pulp from the very hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This increased their transcendental pleasure. Similarly, when Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu felt the touch of the transcendental hand of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were very pleased. The Lord also gave garlands and sandalwood pulp to the performers of Sankirtan. The two chief performers were Swarup Damodar and Srivas Thakur. Now the description of the different chanting parties and dancing will begin. So, Prabhu, you want to read the next set of verses? 33 onwards.
There were altogether 4 parties of Kirtana performers comprising 24 chanters. In each party there were also 2 Mridanga players, making an additional 8 persons. When the 4 parties were performed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after some consideration, divided the chanters. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Haridas Thakura, and Vakreswara Pandita to dance in each of the 4 respective parties. Swarup Damodara was chosen as the leader of the first party and was given 5 assistants to respond to his chanting. The 5 who responded to the singing of Swarup Damodara were Damodara Pandita, Narayana, Govinda Datta, Raghava Pandita, and Sri Govindananda. Advaita Acharya Prabhu was ordered to dance in the first group. The Lord then formed another group with Srivas Thakura as the chief man. The 5 singers who responded to the singing of Srivas Thakura were Gangadasa, Haridasa, Sriman, Subhananda, and Sri Rama Pandita. Sri Nityananda Prabhu was appointed as a dancer. Another group was formed consisting of Vasudeva, Gopinatha, and Murari. All these were responsive singers, and Mukunda was the chief singer. Another 2 persons, Sri Kanta and Vallabhasena, joined as responsive singers. In this group, the senior Haridasa, Haridas Thakura, was the dancer. The Lord formed another group, appointing Govinda Ghosha as the leader. In this group, the younger Haridasa, Vishnudasa, and Raghava were the responding singers. 2 brothers named Madhava Ghosha and Vasudeva Ghosha also joined this group as responsive singers. Vakreswara Pandita was the dancer. There was a Sankirtana party from the village known as Kulina Grama, and Ramananda and Satyaraja were appointed the dancers in this group. There was another party that came from Shantipura and was formed by Advaita Acharya. Achyutananda was the dancer, and the rest of the men were singers. Another party was formed by the people of Khanda. These people were singing in a different place. In that group, Narahari Prabhu and Raghunandana were dancing. 4 parties chanted and danced in front of Lord Jagannatha, and on either side was another party, yet another was at the rear. There were altogether 7 parties of Sankirtana, and in each party 2 men were beating drums. Thus 14 drums were being played at once. The sound was tumultuous, and all the devotees became mad. All the Vaishnavas came together like an assembly of clouds. As the devotees chanted the holy names in great ecstasy, tears fell from their eyes like rain. When the Sankirtana was resounded, it filled the three worlds. Indeed, no one could hear any sounds or musical instruments other than the Sankirtana. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandered through all 7 groups, chanting the holy name, Hari, Hari, raising his arms. He shouted, all glories to Lord Jagannatha. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then exhibited another mystic power by performing pastimes simultaneously in all 7 groups. Everyone said, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is present in my group. Indeed, he does not go anywhere else. He is bestowing his mercy upon us. Actually, no one could see the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Only the most confidential devotees, those in pure, unalloyed devotional service, could understand. Lord Jagannatha was very much pleased by the Sankirtana, and he brought his car to a standstill just to see the performance. King Prataprudra was also astonished to see the Sankirtana. He became inactive and was converted to ecstatic love of Krishna. When the king informed Kashi Mishra of the glories of the Lord, Kashi Mishra replied, O king, your fortune has no limit. The king and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya were both aware of the Lord's activities, but no one else could see the tricks of the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Only a person who received the mercy of the Lord can understand. Without the Lord's mercy, even the demigods headed by Lord Brahma cannot understand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been very satisfied to see the king accept the menial task of sweeping the street. And for this humility, the king received the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He could therefore observe the mystery of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities. Although the king had been refused an interview, he was indirectly bestowed causeless mercy. Who can understand the internal potency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? When the 2 great personalities, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Kashi Mishra, saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy upon the king, they were astonished. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes for some time in this way. He personally sang and induced his personal associates to dance. According to his need, the Lord sometimes exhibited one form and sometimes many. This was being executed by his internal potency. Indeed, the personality of Godhead forgot himself in the course of his transcendental pastimes. But his internal potency, Leela Shakti, knowing the intentions of the Lord, made all arrangements. Just as Lord Sri Krishna formerly performed the Rasa Leela dance and other pastimes at Vrindavana, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed uncommon pastimes moment after moment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing before the Rathyatra car could be perceived only by the pure devotees. Others could not understand. Descriptions of Lord Krishna's uncommon dancing can be found in the revealed scripture Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in great jubilation and inundated all the people with waves of ecstatic love. Thus, Lord Jagannatha mounted his car, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inspired all his devotees to dance in front of it.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, that's the section on that part of the Kirtans. We can see how organized Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was, right? With so many chanting parties, proper count, 8 people per party, and 1 singer, 5 responsive singers, and 2 mridanga players, and 1 dancer, and it's like so organized. So, and then there are 7 parties, and you can imagine how tumultuous and how many people would have been there that you needed 7 kirtan parties. Next is from verse 70. Now please hear about Lord Jagannath's going to the Gundicha temple while Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced before the Ratha car. So it's now the dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being continued in the next few verses. Prabhuji, would you like to continue? From verse 71.
The Lord performed Kirtan for some time and through his own endeavor inspired all the devotees to dance. When the Lord himself wanted to dance, all 7 groups combined together. The Lord's devotees, including Srivas, Ramai, Raghu, Govinda, Mukunda, Haridas, Govindananda, Madhava and Govinda all combined together. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desired to jump high while dancing, he placed these 9 people in the charge of Swarup Damodar. These devotees, Swarup Damodar and the devotees in his charge, sang along with the Lord and they also ran beside him. All the other groups of men also sang. Offering obeisances to the Lord with folded hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised his folded hands. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised his face towards Jagannath and prayed as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Krishna, who is the worshipable deity for all Brahmanical men, who is the well-wisher of cows and Brahmanas, and who is always benefiting the whole world. I offer my repeated obeisances to the personality of Godhead, known as Krishna and Govinda. All glories unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the son of Devaki. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the light of the dynasty of Vrishni. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose bodily luster is like that of a new cloud, and whose body is as soft as a lotus flower. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appeared on this planet to deliver the world from the burden of demons, and who can offer liberation to everyone. Lord Shri Krishna is he who is known as Jana Nivas, the ultimate resort of all living entities, and who is also known as Devaki Nandana or Yashoda Nandana, the son of Devaki and Yashoda. He is the guide of the Yadu dynasty, and with his mighty arms he kills everything inauspicious, as well as every man who is impious. By his presence, he destroys all things inauspicious for all living entities, moving and inert. His blissful smiling face always increases the lusty desires of the gopis of Vrindavan. May he be all glorious and happy. I am not a Brahmana, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not a Vaishya or a Shudra, nor am I a Brahmachari, a householder, a Vanaprastha, or a Sannyasi. I identify myself only as the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. He is like an ocean of nectar, and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He is always existing with brilliance. Having recited all these verses from scripture, the Lord again offered his obeisances, and all the devotees with folded hands also offered prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and jumped high, roaring like thunder and moving in a circle like a wheel, he appeared like a circling firebrand. Wherever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stepped while dancing, the whole earth with its hills and seas appeared to tilt. Mm-hmm. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced, he displayed various blissful transcendental changes in his body. Sometimes he appeared as though stunned. Sometimes the hairs of his body stood on end. Sometimes he perspired, cried, trembled, and changed color. And sometimes he exhibited symptoms of helplessness, pride, exuberance, and humility. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down with a crash while dancing, he would roll on the ground. At such times it appeared that a golden mountain was rolling on the ground. Nityananda Prabhu would stretch out his 2 hands and try to catch the Lord when he was running here and there. Advaita Acharya would walk behind the Lord and loudly chant Hari Bol again and again. Just to check the crowds from coming too near the Lord, the devotees formed 3 circles. The first circle was guided by Nityananda Prabhu, who is Balaram himself, the possessor of great strength. All the devotees headed by Kashishwara and Govinda linked hands and formed a second circle around the Lord. Maharaj Prataparudra and his personal assistants formed a third circle around the 2 inner circles just to check the crowds from coming too near. With his hands on the shoulders of Harichandana, King Prataparudra could see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing, and the king felt great ecstasy. While the king beheld the dancing, Srivas Thakur, standing in front of him, became ecstatic as he saw the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Seeing Srivas Thakur standing before the king, Harichandana touched Srivas with his hand and requested him to step aside. Absorbed in watching Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance, Srivas Thakur could not understand why he was being touched and pushed. After he was pushed again and again, he became angry. Srivas Thakur slapped Harichandan to stop him from pushing him. In turn, this made Harichandra angry. As the angered Harichandan was about to speak to Srivas Thakur, Prataparudra Maharaj personally stopped him. King Prataparudra said, "You are very fortunate, for you have been graced by the touch of Srivas Thakur. I am not so fortunate. You should feel obliged to him."
1 second. Yeah, you can see the wonderful mood of Maharaj Prataparudra here. Right? As you can see, the scene is Prataparudra is standing, putting his hands on Harichandan and seeing the Kirtan. Because the king, Harichandan, wants to make clear the path. So Srivas Thakur is dancing in front, he is trying to move him aside. And Srivas Thakur is dancing in ecstasy, he doesn't want to be disturbed. So he got angry and slapped Harichandan. And Harichandan was about to retaliate, but then Prataparudra Maharaj stopped him. He's saying, "You are very fortunate, for you have been graced by the touch of Srivas Thakur." This is, the Vaishnava's consciousness that even if somebody punishes them, they see it as a grace of the Lord. And in fact, we see it in Advaita Acharya's dealings with Mahaprabhu also. One time, Advaita Acharya purposefully, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always glorifying Advaita Acharya, who is much more elderly and senior. But Advaita Acharya felt himself as a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he didn't want to be glorified, he wanted to be chastised. So, but he couldn't get Mahaprabhu to chastise him. So, one time he tried to pretend to spread the Mayavad philosophy which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dead against. And then, for that, then, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised him and, bet him. And then Advaita Acharya felt so happy. So this is the Vaishnava's mood in receiving feedback. Sometimes when somebody gives feedback, we don't accept it. We are in a mode of denial and we say, "How can I did so much? How can he do this?" and all that. But Vaishnava's mood is always that, be glad to receive the feedback because they are telling me something that I myself do not know. So our blind spots are being exposed by others. So we should always be in that mood. Vaisheshik Prabhu always says, "I stand to be corrected." That is the mood we should always be in. If we are in that mood, then whatever feedback we receive, we'll use it for our improvement and not retaliate against the person giving the feedback. So yeah, that's something I wanted to add. Please continue with text 98.
Everyone was astonished by the dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and even Lord Jagannath became extremely happy to see him. The car came to a complete standstill and remained immobile while Lord Jagannath, with unblinking eyes, watched the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The goddess of fortune, Subhadra, and Lord Balram both felt great happiness and ecstasy within their hearts. Indeed, they were seen smiling at the dancing. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and jumped high, 8 wonderful transformations, indicative of divine ecstasy, were seen in his body. All these symptoms were visible simultaneously. His skin erupted with goose pimples, and the hairs of his body stood on end. His body resembled the simuli, silk cotton tree, all covered with thorns. Indeed, the people became afraid just to see his teeth chatter, and they even thought that his teeth would fall out. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's whole body flowed with perspiration and at the same time oozed blood. He made the sounds Jaja Gaga in a voice choked with ecstasy. Tears came forcefully.
He was trying to chant the name of Jagannath, but out of ecstasy he couldn't say the full word Jagannath. He said Jaja Gaga. He's just stammering. These symptoms that are mentioned, they are called Ashtasatvika Bhava. Like when somebody is in such love of God, all these symptoms appear in their body. Please go ahead.
Tears came forcefully from the eyes of the Lord, as if from a syringe, and all the people surrounding him became wet. Everyone saw the complexion of his body change from white to pink, so that his luster resembled that of the malika flower. Sometimes he appeared stunned, and sometimes he rolled on the ground. Indeed, sometimes his legs and hands became as hard as dry wood, and he did not move. When the Lord fell to the ground, sometimes his breathing almost stopped. When the devotees saw this, their lives also became very feeble. Water flowed from his eyes and sometimes through his nostrils, and foam fell from his mouth. These flowings appeared to be torrents of nectar descending from the moon. The foam that fell from the mouth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taken and drunk by Subhananda, because he was very fortunate and expert in relishing the mellow of ecstatic love of Krishna. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had performed his devastating dance for some time, his mind entered into a mood of ecstatic love. After abandoning the dancing, the Lord ordered Swarup Damodar to sing. Understanding his mind, Swarup Damodar began to sing as follows.
Yeah, you want to continue? Thank you, Prabhu. This is the next section. That previous section was Mahaprabhu's description of his dancing. Now Swarup Damodar Prabhu is, he understands, Swarup Damodar Prabhu is the close associate of Lord Chaitanya. He is actually incarnation of Lalita Sakhi. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is incarnation of Radha and Krishna together. So he knows the mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is feeling. Now he'll sing these songs to bring out that mood in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, as I mentioned earlier, the whole Rathyatra festival is the act of the gopis bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. So that is the significance of pulling the Rathyatra card. So the gopis are bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan because they have been missing Krishna so long. So they met him at Kurukshetra, and then they are actually bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. So now Swarup Damodar Prabhu will sing many verses, and Swarup Damodar Goswami will sing many verses in this mood. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Now I have gained the Lord of my life, in the absence of whom I was being burned by Cupid and was withering away. When this refrain was loudly sung by Swarup Damodar, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began rhythmically dancing in transcendental bliss. The car of Lord Jagannath began to move slowly, while the son of Mother Sachi went ahead and danced in front. While dancing and singing, all devotees in front of Lord Jagannath kept their eyes on him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to the end of the procession with the Sankirtan performers. His eyes and mind fully absorbed in Lord Jagannath, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to play the drama of the song with his two arms. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dramatically enacting this song, he would sometimes fall behind in the procession. At such times, Lord Jagannath would come to a standstill. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again went forward, Lord Jagannath's car would slowly start again. Thus, there was sort of competition between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath in seeing who would lead. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so strong that he made Lord Jagannath wait in his car. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing, his ecstasy changed. Raising his two arms, he began to recite the following verse in a loud voice. That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of Malati flowers is there, and same breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am the same lover, yet still my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of Vareva, under the Vetashi tree. That is my desire. This verse was recited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again and again, but for Swarup Damodar, no one could understand its meaning. I have already explained this verse Now I shall simply describe it in brief. Formerly, all the gopis of Vrindavan were very pleased when they met Krishna in the holy place Kurukshetra. Similarly, after seeing Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awoke with the, with the ecstasy of the gopis. Being absorbed in in this ecstasy, he asked Sarup Damodar to sing the refrain. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke thus to Lord Jagannath: "You are the same Krishna, and I am the same Radharani. We are meeting again in the same way that we met in the beginning of our lives. Although we are both the same, my mind is still attracted to Vrindavan Dham. I wish that you will please again appear with your lotus feet in Vrindavan. In Kurukshetra, there are crowds of people, elephants, and horses, and also rattling of chariots. But in Vrindavan, there are flower gardens and the humming of bees and chirping of the birds can be heard. Here at Kurukshetra, you are dressed like a royal prince, accompanied by great warriors, but in Vrindavan, you appear just like an ordinary cowherd boy, accompanied only by your beautiful flute. Here there is not even a drop of ocean of transcendental happiness that I enjoyed with you in Vrindavan. I therefore request you to come to Vrindavan and enjoy pastimes with me. If you do so, my ambition will be fulfilled." I have already described in brief Srimati Radharani's statement from Srimad Bhagavatam. In that ecstatic mood, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited many other verses, but people in general could not understand their meaning. The meaning of those verses was known to Sarup Damodar Goswami, but he did not reveal it. However, Sri Rupa Goswami has broadcasted the meaning. While dancing, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to recite the following verse, which he tasted in the association of Sarup Damodar Goswami. The gopis spoke thus: "Dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that these lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are only ordinary persons engaged in household affairs." Speaking in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "For most people, the mind and heart are one. But because my mind is never separated from Vrindavan, I consider my mind and Vrindavan to be one. My mind is already Vrindavan, and since you like Vrindavan, will you please place your lotus feet there? I would deem that your full mercy."
Please go ahead. So
My
deep,
dear, yeah,
so deep verses, right? Such deep verses. Please go ahead.
My dear Lord, kindly hear my true submission. My home is Vrindavan, and I wish your association there. But if I do not get it, then it will be very difficult for me to keep my life. My dear Krishna, formerly, when you were staying in Mathura, you sent Uddhava to teach me speculative knowledge and mystic yoga. Now you yourself are speaking the same thing, but my mind doesn't accept it. There is no place in my mind for Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. Although you know me very well, you are still instructing me in Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga. It is not right for you to do so. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "I would like to withdraw my consciousness from you and engage it in material activities. But even though I try, I cannot do so. I am naturally inclined to you. Your instructions for me to meditate on you are therefore simply ludicrous. In this way, you are killing me. It is not very good for you to think of me as a candidate for your instructions."
One second. this verse is so sweet. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking in the mood of Srimati Radharani, saying, I would like to withdraw my consciousness from you and engage it in material activities. She's telling to Krishna that I don't want to think about you, I want to think about material things. This is like the greatest devotee of Krishna, Srimati Radharani, right? So you can see how in transcendental world, in the ecstasy, everything is reversed, right? We cannot say that to Krishna because we are hardly trying to remember Krishna and we are trying to, please him with our little efforts, and our mind is mostly distracted away from Krishna. And we think it's such a great fortune to even think of Krishna. We feel happy. Oh, I am able to think of Krishna for a few minutes without getting diverted. So that's our level. And Srimati Radharani is the greatest devotee of Krishna, and she's always so Krishna conscious. Her problem is the opposite. When she, is dissatisfied with Krishna, or when she is angry with Krishna, she's not able to, even at that time, give up thinking of Krishna. So that's why she's expressing her inability, like how much she's completely controlled by Krishna because of love. So actually, it may seem like, okay, why are they trying to forget Krishna and engage in material activities? But that's like a symptom of love. Even in material world, we see sometimes when husband and wife quarrel, they say, I don't want to think about you, get away. But that's not really the meaning of what they say. They're just saying that out of love, because when there is love, that they have that closeness to say like that. So here, Radharani is saying, I would like to withdraw my consciousness from you and engage it in material activities. But I'm not able to do so. So that's how, wonderful their Krishna consciousness is. Yeah. So, please, go ahead.
The gopis are not like the mystic yogis. They will never be satisfied simply by meditating on your lotus feet and imitating the so-called yogis. Teaching the gopis about meditation is another kind of duplicity. When they are instructed to undergo mystic yoga practice, they are not at all satisfied. On the contrary, they become more and more angry with you. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the gopis have fallen into the great ocean of separation and are being devoured by the Timingla fish of their ambition to serve you. The gopis are to be delivered from the mouths of these Timingla fish, for they are pure devotees. Since they have no material conception of life, why should they aspire for liberation? The gopis do not want the liberation desired by yogis and jnanis, for they are already liberated from the ocean of material existence. It is amazing that you have forgotten the land of Vrindavan. And how is it that you have forgotten your father, mother, and friends? How have you forgotten Govardhan Hill, the bank of the Yamuna, and the forest where you enjoyed the Rasa Leela dance? Krishna, you are certainly a refined gentleman with all good qualities. You are well-behaved, soft-hearted, and merciful. I know that there is not even a tinge of fault to be found in you, yet your mind does not even remember the inhabitants of Vrindavan. This is only my misfortune and nothing else. I do not care for my personal unhappiness, but when I see the morose face of Mother Yashoda and the hearts of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan breaking because of you, I wonder whether you want to kill them all, or do you want to enliven them by coming there? Why are you simply keeping them alive in a state of suffering? The inhabitants of Vrindavan do not want you dressed like a prince, nor do they want you to associate with great warriors in a different country. They cannot leave the land of Vrindavan, and without your presence, they are all dying. What is their condition to be? My dear Krishna, you are the life and soul of Vrindavan Dham. You are especially the life of Nanda Maharaj. You are the only opulence in the land of Vrindavan, and you are very merciful. Please come and let all the residents of Vrindavan live. Kindly keep your lotus feet again in Vrindavan. After hearing Srimati Radharani's statements, Lord Krishna's love for the inhabitants of Vrindavan was evoked, and his body and mind became very much perturbed. After hearing of their love for him, he immediately thought himself to be always indebted to the residents of Vrindavan. Then Krishna began to pacify Srimati Radharani as follows.
Thank you. Mataji, you want to read? It's okay. You want to read? I can give the mic. This is from verse 149. No, this is Krishna's response to this mood of Srimati Radharani.
My dearest Srimati Radharani, please hear me. I'm speaking the truth. I cry day and... Is a line missing? Day and night, simply upon remembering all you inhabitants of Vrindavan. No one knows how unhappy this makes me.
I can keep my closer.
Okay. Sri Krishna continued, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan Dhama, my mother, father, cohort, boyfriends, and everything else are like my life and soul. And among all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis are my very life and soul. And among the gopis, you, Srimati Radharani, are the chief. Therefore, you are the very life of my life. My dear Srimati Radharani, I am always subservient to the loving affairs of all of you. I am under your control only. My separation from you and residence in distant places have occurred due to my strong misfortune. When a woman is separated from the man she loves, or a man is separated from his beloved woman, neither of them can live. It is a fact that they live only for each other, for if one dies, the other hears of it, he or she will also die. Such a loving, chaste wife and loving husband desire all welfare of each other in separation and do not care for personal happiness. Desiring only each other's well-being, such a pair certainly meet again without delay. You are my most dear, and I know that in my absence you cannot live for a moment. Just to keep you living, I worship Lord Narayana. By his merciful potency, I come to Vrindavan every day to enjoy pastimes with you. I then return to Dwarkadham. Thus you can always feel my presence there in Vrindavan. Our love affair is more powerful because of my good fortune in receiving Narayana's grace. This allows me to come there unseen by others. I hope that very soon I will be visible to everyone. I have already killed all the mischievous demons who are enemies of the Yadu dynasty, and I have also killed Kamsa and his allies. But there are two or four demons still living. I want to kill them, and after doing so, I shall very soon return to Vrindavan. Please know this for certain. I wish to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the attacks of my enemies. That is why I remain in my kingdom. Otherwise, I am indifferent to my royal position. Whatever wives, sons, and wealth I maintain in the kingdom are only for the satisfaction of the Yadus. Your loving qualities always attract me to Vrindavan. Indeed, they will bring me back within 10 or 20 days. And when I return, I shall enjoy both day and night with you and all the damsels of Vrijbhumi. While speaking to Srimati Radharani, Krishna became very anxious to return to Vrindavan. He made her listen to a verse which banished all her difficulties and which assured her that she would again attain Krishna. Lord Sri Krishna said, "Devotional service unto me is the only way to attain me. My dear gopis, whatever love and affection you have attained for me by good fortune is the only reason for my returning to you. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sit in his room with Swarupa Damodara and taste the topics of these verses day and night. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced completely absorbed in ecstatic emotion while looking at the face of Lord Jagannath. He danced and recited these verses. No one can describe the good fortune of Swarup Damodara Goswami, for he is always absorbed in the service of the Lord with his body, mind, and words. The senses of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were identical with the senses of Swarupa. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to become fully absorbed in tasting the singing of Swarupa Damodara. In emotional ecstasy, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sometimes sit on the ground and looking down would write on the ground with his finger, fearing that the Lord would injure his finger by writing in this way. Swarupa Damodara checked him with his own hand. Swarupa Damodara used to sing exactly according to the ecstatic emotion of the Lord whenever a particular mellow was being tasted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Swarupa Damodara would personify it by singing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked upon the beautiful lotus-like face and eyes of Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath was garlanded, dressed with nice garments, and adorned with beautiful ornaments. His face was glittering from the rays of sunshine, and the entire atmosphere was fragrant. An ocean of transcendental bliss expanded in the heart of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and symptoms of madness immediately intensified like a hurricane. The madness of transcendental bliss created waves of various emotions. The emotions appeared like opposing soldiers staging a fight. There was an increase in all the natural emotional symptoms. Thus, they were awakening emotions, peacefulness, joy, mixed, transcendental, and prevalent emotions and impetuses for emotion. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body appeared like a transcendental Himalayan mountain bearing ecstatic emotional flower trees, all of them blooming. The sight of all these symptoms attracted everyone's mind and consciousness. Indeed, the Lord sprinkled everyone's mind with the nectar of transcendental love of Godhead. He sprinkled the minds of the servants of the Lord Jagannath, the government officers, the pilgrim visitors, the general populace, and all the residents of Jagannath Puri. Upon seeing the dancing and ecstatic love of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone became astonished. In their hearts, they became infatuated with love of Krishna. Everyone danced and chanted in ecstatic love, and a great noise resounded. Everyone was overwhelmed with the transcendental bliss just to see the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Apart from others, even Lord Jagannath and Lord Balarama, with great happiness, began to move very slowly upon seeing the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Jai. Thank you. So the next section, Prabhu, you want to read? This continuation of the Rathyatra parade.
Apart from the others, even Lord Jagannath and Lord Balram with great happiness began to move very
Closer to your mouth. Yeah.
Not even Lord Nityanand Prabhu, Kashishwara or Govinda took care of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he fell down. Nityananda was in great ecstasy and Kashishwara and Govinda were elsewhere. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already been satisfied by the king's behavior, for the king had accepted the service of a sweeper for Lord Jagannath. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually desired to see the king. However, just to warn his personal associates, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu externally expressed feelings of anger. King Rathyatra became frightened when Lord Chaitanya showed external anger. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told the king, don't worry.
So you can see here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased that the king, even though he's the king of the royal throne of Orissa, he took a menial position as a servant and a sweeper and swept the road in front of Lord Jagannath. So that humility pleased Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he knew that Prataparudra wanted to, have association of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But because he was a king and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the role of a sannyasi, he was observing the social etiquette that sannyasis don't intimately associate with kings, because then they could become contaminated by the opulence and the royalty. So he was trying to show us an example of how one should be very careful in executing their Krishna consciousness.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is the first time I'm hearing this. So, what is happening? Where is Krishna? Okay. I have a question. I have no clue what's going on. Jagannath temple, then Sri Chaitanya, and Krishna, and Nityananda. I don't know any of these. So, other than Krishna.
Yes.
So, what is happening? Which time frame are we talking about, and what place?
Sure. So this was like 500 years ago, when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is on the left of the altar, so that's Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a combined incarnation of...
This one also?
No, this is Srila Prabhupada, who is his follower. So Srila Prabhupada is the one... Prabhupada was here in US in 1965.
Okay.
And he's more recent. Yeah, so he's like a Acharya coming in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived in the 500 years ago, in the 15th century.
But the Krishna was not there then.
Now Krishna appeared 5,000 years back. So the connection is, so Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead,
Yes.
and Srimati Radharani is his eternal consort. So they always live in the Golokadam, in the spiritual world. And from time to time they come to this material world to show us what we are missing out and to attract us back to the spiritual abode, the Vrindavan, the real spiritual Vrindavan. So when they come, they recreate or reenact the same pastimes that they do in the spiritual world in the material world. So that's why the place now, what we call as Vrindavan, southeast of Delhi, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, that place was where Krishna performed his pastimes 5,000 years back.
Right.
So that place is spiritually non-different from the spiritual world. It's, if you go and perform bhakti, you get the same potency as the spiritual world. It's not even though it's like a place in this material world, technically it is like it's an embassy of the spiritual world. That's why Vrindavan is so famous.
But the gopis and the Radharani are still there?
Yes, they are there in the original Vrindavan, and in this Vrindavan they appeared 5,000 years back, and then when Krishna left, they also accompanied him and went back. So again, this is like a pastime they come to enact and then they go back. So that's 5,000 years back. And then after that, around 5,000 years back, when Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, so Krishna did all his pastimes, whatever we are hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, they're all from his pastimes that was performed 5,000 years back in the Sri Vrindavan Dham. Now, after he left, 500 years back, Krishna came back again, but in the form of a combined incarnation of both Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So that's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's a combined form of both Krishna and Radha.
Oh, he
So he came again 500 years back, but this time he came in Bengal, in West Bengal. So that's where he appeared, in the place called Navadvip and Mayapur, and that's where he appeared and performed his pastime. But this time he didn't come as God, even though he is God. He didn't come as God. He came to teach how one should be devoted to God. So you can see his both moods. Sometimes he acts as Krishna, sometimes he acts as Radha, because you can see some of his verses he was speaking in the mood of Radha, because he is both. And he's also a devotee of Krishna, because he came to teach us how to be a devotee of Krishna. Because in Kali Yuga everybody is imitating others. They don't want to follow, they want to imitate. So Krishna thought, if I came as Krishna, then people will imitate me and try to become God. This Baba, that Baba, all these guys are like pretending to be God. Krishna didn't want that. He said, okay, if you're going to anyway imitate me in the form of my devotee. So that by imitating a devotee of Krishna, you become a devotee of Krishna.
So his dancing and all that is being described
is mood in the form of a devotee of Krishna. Even though he himself is non-different from Krishna, but his role and his mood is to come as a teacher and teach how to be devoted to Krishna. So that's why he sometimes feels, I don't have any love for Krishna, because he's showing that that's how we should feel. It's not like I should feel that I have so much love for Krishna and brag about it, but we should feel that I have no love for Krishna. Krishna is so great, I'm so far away, so please be merciful. So that's how we should pray. He's teaching us the mood of prayer and dependence on Krishna. So that's the purpose of his incarnation, to teach us this love for Krishna, how to develop the love for Krishna.
And Nityananda and all these.
And Nityananda is Krishna's associate. Krishna and Balaram. Krishna's brother is Balaram. So Nityananda is Balaram's avatar. Same time as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whenever God comes, he comes with his entourage, with all his friends and family, so that they enact this pastime and then they go back to the spiritual world. So periodically. So that happened 500 years ago. And during that time, the Rathyatra ceremony was there for thousands of years. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu observed the Rathyatra ceremony. Rathyatra, Jagannath is none other than Krishna. Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. So Jagannath is Krishna and Baladev is Balaram, his brother, and Subhadra is sister. So they perform this annual pastime of Rathyatra, and this is the deity of Lord Jagannath going in the procession. So that is also Krishna. Right? So he's going, and then devotees glorify the Lord on the path of that, and then they pull the Rathyatra. Now the mood here is during that, when Krishna came 5,000 years back, when during one solar eclipse they all went to Kurukshetra. At the time the gopis also went there from Vrindavan, because Krishna left Vrindavan when he was like about like a pretty early, like 10 or so. And then after that he never came back. So because he was like living in Mathura, and then he went to Dwaraka and he became a king, all that. So he never came back. So that's why in some of these pastimes he explains the mood, because the mood of separation is actually higher than the mood of association. So he didn't want to break their mood, because when Krishna is there, they only think about that particular aspect of Krishna. When Krishna is not there, they think about Krishna in so many ways, because all his pastimes, all his memories, everything is recollected. So the mood of separation is actually even higher than the mood of meeting Krishna. So they were in that deep ecstatic mood throughout their lives, and Krishna wanted to show how great the residents of Vrindavan is. So he never returned back, but they were fully fixed in their devotion. And during this solar eclipse, because Kurukshetra is a famous holy place, all these Vrajavasis went there, and Krishna and his associates went there. And then that's the time that the gopis they couldn't meet directly Krishna, but they were expressing this mood, let's return back to Vrindavan. Let's go back to Vrindavan. I don't like all these horses and kings and royalty and all. Let's go back to our simple life. So that's the mood in which they are inviting Krishna back. And that is the mood in which the Rathyatra ceremony happens. Like when Jagannath is brought on the Rathyatra cart, they are like, it's like a bringing Krishna from Kurukshetra to Vrindavan. So that's why all these verses are being chanted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the associates, in that mood of gopis bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan. that happened 5,000 years ago. So they are enacting those pastimes by doing the Rathyatra ceremony.
But then why was Radharani saying, I want to be materialistic? What was that?
No, that's because that's like she has so much love for Krishna that this is called transcendental ecstasy or transcendental madness. So she loves, for example, when Krishna doesn't come on time for an appointment, she's angry at Krishna. At the time she tries to forget Krishna. And she says, I'm trying to forget you, but I cannot forget. It's a way of expressing her love for Krishna, but in a very, in a very helpless way. She's saying, you're late, but I can't even, I'm trying to forget you, I cannot forget you. Like that. Actually, that's the height of their spiritual ecstasy she's expressing in those words. Okay. So that's the meaning of those words. Okay. And then, so 500 years ago was Mahaprabhu's time, and then the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they appeared, who are disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then they wrote so many books, and then their followers, they wrote books. So this book was written about like 400 years back by one of the followers of the Goswamis, by his name is Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. He wrote this book based on the descriptions he heard from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disciples of all these stories that happened during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime. And that's what this book is.
So this is not written by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
This is all activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, narrated in lectures by his disciples and recorded by his grand disciple, and then made it into a form of a book. And this all original is in Bengali, and it was in Bengali for many, many years, like hundreds of years. Then Srila Prabhupada, when he came to West, he's also from Bengal, in the Guru Parampara, stemming from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he, as a follower of Lord Chaitanya, and his guru, who is also from the same tradition, told him, this knowledge is so important for the entire world, so you should go and give this knowledge to the English-speaking countries. Yeah. And so Srila Prabhupada traveled at his age of 70, which was, he was born in 1896. And then in 1965, he took a cargo ship from India to US, and then just for the purpose of giving all the message of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, all this knowledge to all of us. He took such a risk and suffered 2 heart attacks on the way. And then he came as a single man, alone, no relatives, nobody, no funds. And then just by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he started a spiritual movement, and in which many of the young, youth from America joined, because they were at the time looking for the meaning of life. What's the deeper sense of life? It's just not about just getting educated, getting married, raising a family, and then retiring and then dying. Life means there has to be some higher purpose. So they were looking for that purpose, and they were trying to find it through music, drugs, sex, rock and roll, and all these different forms. And then when Prabhupada gave this spiritual knowledge and say how by actually connecting to your spiritual nature, you gain a higher taste. And then you can reach a level of consciousness which no drugs, no material activities can give that satisfaction, because they're all very temporary, whereas spiritual satisfaction is much deeper and much higher. And then he inspired them to follow this path of bhakti, and then they are the ones that helped him translate. He was in fact, in India he was writing, in US they got him a dictaphone, so when everybody was asleep in the night, then he would take the dictaphone and then record all these translations and all these purports and then they'll come in the morning, and then they'll put it in a typewriter and then print these books. This entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, like 9 volumes, this 1 volume, so there's a 9-volume set. This was made in just 2 months. Wow. That's how productive those disciples were, and that's how productive Srila Prabhupada was, because he lived only, after he came to US, he lived only 12 years. In that 12 years, he accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish in his entire life, which ISKCON, he built 108 ISKCON temples throughout the world, and then established so many farm communities, initiated thousands of disciples, wrote hundreds of letters to disciples, instructing them wrote this more than 65 volumes of these books, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything he accomplished in those 12 years. And then he left in 1977. And then his disciples are now continuing his mission. So that's the history there.
So, what about the car they're talking about?
That's the Rathyatra cart, the Jagannath Rath.
Okay.
Rath. It's a chariot, car, cart, everything is meaning the same.
Okay, I get some picture now.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you
yeah,
so much.
it's like multiple levels of mood and emotions and timelines presented here. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Prabhu, please go ahead. Just another 20 verses and then we can finish.
King Prataprudra became frightened when Lord Chaitanya showed an external anger. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told the king, don't worry. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya informed the king.
Sorry, that's where I was trying to explain before your question. Yeah. So as you can see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, but he's also coming in the mood of a devotee to teach how a devotee should behave. So even though he was so pleased with the king for taking the menial service for sweeping, he didn't want to set a wrong example. So he's simultaneously trying to show mercy to the King Prataparudra. So that's why he tried to fall in the Kirtan, and none of the other associates were there, and then the king had to hold him and lift him back. And then he's very pleased. That's why he intentionally did that, to give the king the chance to touch him. But externally, he's saying, oh, how I have become sinful because I have touched by this, like he was saying, oh, how pitiful it is. It is that I have touched a person who is interested in mundane affairs. So he's like pretending to be angry, but King Prataparudra got confused. He became frightened when Lord showed external anger. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is, his Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is another associate. He knows what's happening. So this is why it's very important. Krishna is very tricky, right? He'll do one thing but say one thing. It's, we cannot just think that we can understand him so easily. So only a very, very close devotee of Krishna can really understand his mind. So these are confidential houses. He says, don't worry, we know why he's doing it. So that's why all these are multiple layers of instructions are there. Please. So he was actually a very learned person, but he was learned in the Vedanta, and he had a conception that the mukti, or getting liberated from this world, is the highest goal. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu convinced him that actually bhakti, or rendering devotional service to Lord Krishna, is higher even than liberation. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like 25 years old at that time, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was in his 70s. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was able to convince him, and then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became a devotee of Krishna. And then he became one of the close associates of Lord Chaitanya, and he wrote so many verses glorifying Lord Chaitanya's mercy and his bhakti. So yeah, he's one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. So there are many characters like that all of that relationship and the pastimes and the details of how they became devotees and how Mahaprabhu interacted with all of them, they're all described in this book, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's all like wonderful nectar of all these things, along with all the instructions for us lessons to learn from that interaction. So essentially, the entire ISKCON's culture is based on the teachings and based on the example that Mahaprabhu taught in these verses. Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya informed the king, the Lord is very satisfied with you. By pointing you out, he was teaching his personal associates how to behave with mundane people. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, I shall submit your petition when there is an opportune moment. It will then be easy for you to come and meet the Lord. After circumambulating Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went behind the car and began pushing it with his head. As soon as he pushed, the car immediately started to move, making a rattling noise. The people all around began to chant the holy name of the Lord, Hari, Hari. As the car began to move, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his personal associates in front of the cars occupied by Lord Balram and Subhadra, the goddess of fortune. Greatly inspired, he then began to dance in front of them. After finishing the dance before Lord Baldev and Subhadra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came before Lord Jagannath's car. Upon seeing Lord Jagannath, he began to dance again. When they reached the place called Balagandhi, Lord Jagannath stopped his car and began to look left and right. On the left side, Lord Jagannath saw a neighborhood of Brahmins and a coconut tree grove. On the right side, he saw nice flower gardens resembling those in the holy place, Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees were dancing in front of the car, and Lord Jagannath, having stopped the car, watched the dancing. It was customary that food be offered to the Lord at Sasana. Indeed, innumerable dishes of food were offered, and Lord Jagannath tasted each one of them. All kinds of devotees of Lord Jagannath, from neophytes to the most advanced, offered their best cooked food to the Lord. These devotees included the king, his queens, his ministers and friends, and all other big and small residents of Jagannath Puri. All the visitors who had come from different countries to Jagannath Puri as well, as the local devotees offered their personally cooked food to the Lord. The devotees offered their food everywhere, in front of the car and behind it, on the two sides and within the flower garden. Wherever possible, they made their offering to the Lord, for there were no hard and fast rules. While the food was being offered, a large crowd of people gathered. At that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped his dancing and went to a nearby garden. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the garden and, immersed in great ecstatic emotion, fell flat on a raised platform there. The Lord was very much fatigued from the hard labor of dancing, and there was perspiration all over his body. He therefore enjoyed the fragrant cool breeze of the garden. All the devotees who had been performing Sankirtana came there and took rest under each and every tree. Thus, I have described the great performance of congregational chanting by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as he danced in front of Lord Jagannath. In his prayer known as the Chaitanyastaka, Srila Rupa Goswami has given a vivid description of the Lord's dancing before the car of Jagannath. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced down the main road in great ecstasy before Lord Jagannath, the master of Nilachal, who was sitting on his car, overwhelmed by the transcendental bliss of dancing and surrounded by Vaishnavas who sang the holy names. He manifested waves of ecstatic love of Godhead. When will Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again be visible to my vision? Anyone who hears this description of the car festival will attain Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He will also attain the elevated state by which he will have firm conviction in devotional service and love of Godhead. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunatha, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps.
Jai. Thank you. That's such a wonderful benediction for everybody that listened. Now we'll have a short kirtan for 5 minutes, and then the real class will start. There's one more class by the kids for another 15 minutes. So, Jai Jagannath.
Thank you so much, Govind Charan Prabhu.
Okay, thank you.
This is Rathyatra. I'm connecting from Los Angeles for Akshara's presentation. Thank you so much for encouraging him.
Thank you. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Swami Jai Jagannath. Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath Swami, Jai Jagannath. Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladev, Jai Subhadra. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath Swami, Jai Jagannath. Jai Baladeva, Jai Subhadra, Jai Baladeva, Jai Subhadra. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Jagannatha Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Swami Nayana Patagami, Nayana Patagami Bhavatu me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Srila Guru Deva Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Srila Guru Deva Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Rathyatra Mahotsav ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Yeah, so those of us who couldn't go to Los Angeles Rathyatra, which is happening tomorrow, there's also a Berkeley Rathyatra that's happening, I think, August 24th. There's a brochure outside. 20. Yeah, there's a brochure outside at the table on the left. So please, you can experience some of these pastimes there. So welcome you all for that event. And with that, we'll hand over to the main presenter today. And Rashishwari Mataji, you want to introduce?
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, we are very grateful. Akshaj has actually been a student in Sunday school for almost 10 years now. And today he will be presenting on how one man's mistake can make many culprits. So go ahead, Akshaj. You can introduce your name and age and start.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is Akshaj. I'm 12 years old. And today I'll be presenting about the 7th chapter of the Bhagavata Viveka titled, Can One Man's Mistakes Make Many Culprits? We'll be covering 3 stories. Thank you. We'll be covering 3 stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam to answer this question. Okay. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. So the first story is about Dhruva Maharaj's fight with the Yakshas. So after Dhruva Maharaj's stepmother Surichi denied him from sitting on his father's lap, he went out to the forest to meditate, and eventually the Lord granted him some wishes. One of them was that his stepbrother and stepmother would die in the forest because they disrespected him. When Dhruva Maharaj had found out about this, he was enraged because it was a yaksha that killed his stepbrother. So he declared war on every other yaksha. So he fought with every other yaksha in the race. Yeah. So that picture is showing him fighting with all the yakshas, and he was fighting with the yakshas. But when his grandfather Swayambhuva Manu found out, he was pretty mad because and he told him that this wasn't how he was supposed to act, and he made the king of the yakshas Kuvera very mad. So Dhruva Maharaj, he apologized to King Kuvera, and they made peace. The second story is about Daksha Prajapati. Daksha Prajapati attended an auspicious 1,000-year sacrifice that many sages, demigods, and other leaders of the universe were present at. Seeing Daksha Prajapati, everyone stood up to respect him other than Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Daksha offered obeisances to Lord Brahma, but seeing Lord Shiva sitting down made him enraged. He cursed Shiva, saying, "May he not have a share in the sacrifice." Nandishvara, Shiva's devout servant, was angry because of how Daksha had acted. He cursed Daksha and all his supporters and cursed him, saying, "Let Daksha have the head of a goat for a short while and have his followers continue in their material activities." Seeing this, sage Bhrigu counter-cursed Nandishvara and the entire clan of Shiva followers, saying, "Let the followers of Shiva become atheists, be diverted from scriptural injunctions, and become addicted to wine and flesh." Seeing how the situation had become, Lord Shiva had left the place because it was a bad environment, so he left to prevent all the cursing. The third story is about Parikshit Maharaj. When he went into the forest, he was thirsty, so he went to a sage's house, Sage Samika, and he went to Sage Samika's house and he asked him for water, but since the sage was meditating, he couldn't hear him. But Parikshit Maharaj was got really angry over this, and using his bow, he placed a dead snake over his neck. After a short while, Sage Samika's son, Shringi, he was a young boy who didn't know too much. He got really mad, so he cursed Parikshit Maharaj, saying that he would die in the next days to the bite of a snake bird. So Parikshit Maharaj found out after a student of Sage Samika named Gauramukha informed him about what happened. Instead of getting mad, Parikshit Maharaj accepted the curse. He saw this as an opportunity to retire from his reign over the world and instead hear about the Srimad Bhagavatam from Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Eventually, the 7 days were up and he got bit by the snake bird. But this shows how instead of getting mad over the entire Brahmana race because Sage Shringi, Shringi was a Brahmana, he didn't get mad at every single Brahmana, he just accepted it. So, to answer the question of if one man's mistakes can make many culprits, yes, one man's mistakes can make many culprits. If a person does something out of anger and rage, it would most likely lead to more people getting dragged in. That's it. Haribo.
Are there any reflections or comments?
So, I learned that it's better to not act out of rage and better think about what you're gonna do first, and don't drag in other people if one person made an issue.
So how many years you've been reading these? How many years you've been reading these?
I've been in Vedic Academy since I was like 4 or 5, I think. So I'm 12 right now.
So 8 years.
Yeah.
Are you graduating?
In 1 or 2 years, I'm pretty sure, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Thank you, Akshaj. It was a wonderful effort to put your presentation together, and I look forward to another year of exciting instructions from the Bhagavatam for the, Sunday school, and I hope you'll benefit from that. Thank you to all the audience for, listening to him and encouraging him. It means a lot to us and as teachers as well as to the students.
Hare Krishna Mataji, are you in LA?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm in LA.
Okay, tell us what's going on there.
So we had a wonderful class by Vaisheshika Prabhu, and we did chant the 34 divinity and divine service, from the Bhagavatam, second chapter of the first canto. So we recited that, and now everybody's getting ready to pack the books. That 8,000 books need to be packed. We have 3 teams, Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, and we'll be packing these books and distributing them tomorrow at the Rathyatra. So we're all just getting ready for that.
Jai, we are in spirits with you there.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. And we're in spirits with you over there, with Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Mahaprabhu, Sri Lakshmi Narasimha and Panchatattva.
Jai. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
So next we'll have a Guru Puja for Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji. Koladvi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So we'll do now Srila Prabhupada Guru Puja. So we'll start with some prayers. Nama Srishtam Manum Apishuchiputram Atra Sarupam Shri Rupam Tasagrajam Urupurim Mathurim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivara Maharadhika Madhavasam Praptiyasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi He Guru Gyanadadina Bandho Sananda Data Karunaika Sindho Vrindavanasina Hitavatara Prasiddha Radha Pranaya Pacharo He Dina Bandhu Karunaika Sindhu Kuru Prasadam Mai Mandha Mure Laksa Paradhe Bhapagadhe Tatpada Padestu Matischa Krishne Naiva Payantya Pachetam Kavayastavesha Brahmayushapi Kritam Riddham Mudha Smarantaha Yo Antarbahisthanubhritam Asubham Vidhunvan Acharya Chaitya Vapusa Sagatim Vyanakti. I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have obtained the supreme holy name. the divine mantra, the service of the son of Sachimata, the association of Srila Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and his older brother Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kunda and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore, grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. O my Lord, transcendental poets and experts in spiritual science could not fully express their indebtedness to you, even if they were endowed with the prolonged lifetime of Brahma. For you appear in two features, eternally as the Acharya and internally as the Super Soul, to deliver the embodied living being by directing him how to come to you. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your frame is spread all over the three walls. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakate Sadma. 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 Vandamoe Sabadhano Mate, Vandamoe Sabadhano Mate, Vandamoe Sabadhano Mate, Vandamoe Sabadhano Mate. Jahar prasade bhai এ ভবতরিয়া যায় যাহার প্রসাদে ভবতরিয়া যায় কৃষ্ণ প্রাপ্তি হয় যাহা হইতে 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 গুরুমুখ পদ্ম বাক্য চিত্ত করিয়া অক্ষ গুরুমুখ পদ্ম বাক্য চিত্ত করিয়া অক্ষ গুরুমুখ পদ্ম বাক্য চিত্ত করিয়া গুরুমুখ পদ্ম বাক্য চিত্ত করিয়া আর না করে মনে আশা না করে মনে আর না করে মনে আশা না করে মনে শ্রী গুরু চরণে রাতে সয়ুতম গতে শ্রী গুরু চরণে রাতে সয়ুতম গতে যে প্রসাদ পুরে সর্ব আশা 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 চক্ষুদান দিল যে জন্মে জন্মে প্রভু সে চক্ষুদান দিল যে জন্মে জন্মে প্রভু সে দিব্য জ্ঞান হৃদয় প্রকাশিত দিব্য জ্ঞান হৃদয় প্রকাশিত প্রেম ভক্তি যাহা হইতে অবে যাবে না সজাতে প্রেম ভক্তি যাহা হইতে বেদে গায় যাহার চরিত বেদে গায় যাহার চরিত সে গুরু করুণা সিন্ধু অধম জনার বন্ধু সে গুরু করুণা সিন্ধু অধম জনার বন্ধু লোকনাথ লোকের জীবন লোকনাথ লোকের জীবন আহা প্রভু কর দয়া দেহ মোরে পদ ছায়া প্রভু কর দয়া প্রভু কর দয়া দেহ মোরে পদ ছায়া প্রভু কর দয়া দেহ মোরে পদ ছায়া এবে যাজ ঘোষক ভুবন এবে যাজ ঘোষক ভুবন শিল প্রভুপাদ পতিত পাবন শিল প্রভুপাদ পতিত পাবন জয় প্রভুপাদ জয় প্রভুপাদ জয় প্রভুপাদ শিল প্রভুপাদ জয় প্রভুপাদ জয় প্রভুপাদ প্রভুপাদ Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Namayam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nite Namine Namayam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nite Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Vashata Desatarine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vashata Desatarine Kali Kukur Kadhan Jadi चाहो है कले कुकुर का धान যদি চাও হে কলে যোগ পাবন কলে ভয় নাশন সে সচি নন্দন গাও হে সে সচি নন্দন গাও হে গদাধর মাদন নিতায়ের প্রাণ ধন অদ্বৈতের প্রপূজিত গৌরা গদাধর মাদন নিতায়ের প্রাণ ধন অদ্বৈতের প্রপূজিত গৌরা নিমাই বিশ্বম্ভর শ্রীনিবাস ঈশ্বর ভক্ত সমূহ চিত চোরা নিমাই বিশ্বম্ভর শ্রীনিবাস ঈশ্বর ভক্ত সমূহ চিত চোরা নদিয়া শাসধর মায়াপুর ঈশ্বর নাম প্রবর্তন সুর নদিয়া শাসধর মায়াপুর ঈশ্বর নাম প্রবর্তন সুর গৃহীজন শিক্ষক নশিকুল নায়ক মাধব রাধা ভাব পুর গৃহীজন শিক্ষক নশিকুল নায়ক মাধব রাধা ভাব পুর সার্বভৌম শোধন গজপতি তারণ রামানন্দ পোষণ বের সার্বভৌম শোধন গজপতি তারণ রামানন্দ পোষণ বের রূপানন্দ বর্ধন সনাতন পালন হরিদাস মদন ধীর রূপানন্দ বর্ধন সনাতন পালন হরিদাস মদন ধীর ব্রজরস ভাবন দুষ্টমত সাতন কপটে বিঘাতন কাম ব্রজরস ভাবন দুষ্টমত সাতন কপটে বিঘাতন কাম শুদ্ধ ভক্ত পালন शुष्क ज्ञान तारण छल भक्ति दूषण राम शुद्ध भक्त पालन शुष्क ज्ञान तारण छल भक्ति दूषण राम कले ककोर कादान जदे चाहे कले ककोर कादान जदे चाहे कल जुग पावन कल भय नाशन शेषते नंदन गाओ है कल जुग पावन कल भय नाशन शेषते नंदन गाओ है श्री सचिनंदन गाओ है श्री सचि हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari जय हो विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवाचक आचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतक कृष्ण कृपा सिमूर्ति श्रील अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की ISKCON बीबीटी संस्थापक आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवाचक आचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतक कृष्ण कृपा श्रीमूर्ति श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस साक्षात वैराग्य मूर्ति श्रील गौर किशोर दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस सच्चिदानंद शिल भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय ब्रह्म मध्य गौरी संप्रदाय आचार्य परंपरा की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य शिल हरिदास ठाकुर की जय श्री रूप श्री सनातन श्री जीव श्री गोपाल भट्ट श्री रघुनाथ दास श्री रघुनाथ भट्ट सारा गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय श्री भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी वृंदा देवी की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय हरिनाम महासंकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय श्री श्री प्रभुपाद गुरु पूजा आरती की जय श्रीमद् भागवत जी महापुराण क्लास की जय समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर शीतनाथ प्रेमानंद हरि हरि बोल ऑल ग्लोरीज टू द assembled devotees all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga all glories to Srila Prabhupada Hare Krishna. Announcement?
Yes. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming on this beautiful Saturday morning. As you can see, most of the devotees have gone to the LA Rathyatra. So they are doing tremendous service there today, packing 8,000 books, as we heard from Rasheshwari Mataji, to be distributed at the Rathyatra parade tomorrow in Los Angeles in Santa Monica Beach. So we wish them all wonderful seva and best of luck for tomorrow's book distribution. Are there any local groups going here with any remaining devotees that are online that want to chime in? Okay, no local groups. If you have to do the book distribution today, you have to go to LA, just 5 hours south. And yes, with that, we'll announce the cooks. Today's prasadam is being lovingly prepared by His Grace Yashoda Kripa Prabhu, along with help from Krishna Prabhu and Purushottam Gauranga Prabhus. Let's give them big Hari Bol. Hari Bol! Thank you. And thank you, Koladev Prabhu, for the beautiful rendering of the Shri Guru Puja prayers. Thank you. And would like to thank Krishangi Mataji for the live stream support from the morning with so meticulous details. Haribol. And thank you to Balimardan Prabhu and Ananda Vrindavan Mataji for dressing the DD so beautifully this morning in such an opulent dress. Thank you. Haribol. So with that, we'll have the prasadam prayers, and then we'll have the prasadam in like 5 minutes outside.
Hare Krishna, we want to all thank His Grace Govinda Charan Prabhu for bringing us our Japa class today and Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning. So please give him a big round of applause. Hare Krishna. I had some service commitment in the morning, so I could not attend most part of his class. But whatever I heard from the later part, he was discussing about that, pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Rathyatra Lila, and it was so nectarian. And Prabhu actually was experiencing himself. I could feel that he was experiencing it himself and trying to, permeate it in the heart of the devotees who were present. So beautiful presentation, Prabhu, and we are really fortunate to hear from devotees like your Grace who are actually embodying that mood of service always, everywhere they go. So please give another round of applause to Prabhu, that we are so fortunate to have his association here in ISV. Hare Krishna. He does so many services around the globe, but still he is behind the screen, so we don't see him in front of the screen most of the times. But he is bringing a revelation in many areas of our movement. So thank you, Prabhu, for that. And thank you also, Ramanand Saka Prabhu. Like many devotees, sometimes we take opportunity to go in different festivals. Some devotees who are anchored here and maintaining the daily service of the temple. Like one of them is our head pujari and temple commander, His Grace Ramanand Saka Prabhu. So please give him a big round of applause. He doesn't have any break for last 7 days. He will be doing this service for next 7 days because devotees are out of time mostly. And also Krishangi Mataji, I see also her not going anywhere. She is so attached to our Radha Madan Mansi Mahaprabhu Lakshmi Narsingha and the devotees over here. So please give another round of applause to her also. And please give another round of applause to your Grace that, leaving all the services, all the commitment, all the enjoyment of the world, you came in the morning to attend this special Bhagavatam class. This is also very special. It's not something ordinary. So please give another round of applause to yourself. Again, Prabhu already announced the cooks, so the prasadam will be served outside, I think, in the porch. But we will sing the prasadam prayer before we go to that stage. Okay, yeah. So, as Vaisheshika Prabhu says that this is a Bengali sweetness. Yeah, there are different songs written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which are sung in different times of honoring prasadam. Not times, I think, different types of prasadam. So, in our temple, we sing sometimes all of these songs together, but we'll sing the first part only today. So let's sing together. Shorira Vidyajal Jadendriya Tahe Kal Jive Fele Visaya Sagore Tar Madhe Jivayati Lobhamay Sudurmati তাকে যেতা কঠিন সংসারে কৃষ্ণ বরদয়াময় করিবারে জীব যায় সাপ্রসাদন্ন দিল ভাই সেই অন্নামৃত পাও শ্রী শ্রী রাধা কৃষ্ণ গুণ গাও প্রেমে ডাকো শ্রী চৈতন্য নিতাই প্রেমে ডাকো শ্রী চৈতন্য নিতাই महाप्रसादे गोविन्दे नाम ब्रह्मणि वैष्णवे स्वल्पपुण्यवतां राजन् विश्वासनैव जायते प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां अनिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्नचेतसि आशु बुद्ध्यपर्यावतिष्ठते तयोपभुक्त सागन्ध भास अलंकार चर्चिता उच्छिष्ट भोजिनां दासस्तव मयं जय मही श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन श्रीमान महाप्रभु लक्ष्मी नरसिंह महाप्रसाद के जय निताय गौर हरे बोल हरे बोल हरे बोल निताय गौर हरे बोल निताय गौर हरे बोल हरे बोल हरे बोल निताय गौर हरे बोल. Please come and honor prasadam. I think prasadam will be served in the picnic area. Hare Krishna. Picnic area.